Priest snaps on Royce Keys. SmackDown shock throat grab. Royce Keys gets ambushed. Priest sends brutal message. SmackDown turns violent. What happens when a night that already feels unpredictable suddenly shifts into something nobody in the arena is prepared for? And more importantly, what was really going through Damian Priest's mind when he decided Royce Keys wasn't just someone in his way, but someone he needed to grab by the throat in front of everyone? It all starts on a SmackDown episode that already had that uneasy energy from the opening bell. You know, the kind of night where nothing feels fully stable, where every segment feels like it could tip over into chaos at any second. Royce Keys was already deep in trouble early on, dealing with constant pressure from the MFTs who had clearly made him their target for the night. They weren't just attacking him physically, they were mentally trying to break him down, circling him like they were waiting for him to make that one mistake they could exploit. And for a while, it looked like that was exactly where things were heading, because Royce was getting overwhelmed, pushed back into uncomfortable positions, struggling to keep control of a situation that kept slipping through his fingers. But then something shifted in him. You could see it in the way he started reacting differently, not just surviving but actually pushing back. It wasn't clean, it wasn't pretty, but it was resistance. And when he finally managed to repel the MFTs in that chaotic exchange, the crowd reacted like they had just witnessed something bigger than a simple defense. It wasn't a victory, not really, but it felt like survival under pressure, and sometimes in wrestling that's enough to change the tone of everything. The energy in the arena lifted slightly, like people were starting to believe Royce Keys might actually turn the night around for himself. And that's the dangerous part, because the moment you start believing things are stabilizing, wrestling usually reminds you that control is an illusion. Because that's when Damian Priest appeared. No warning, no dramatic announcement, just that slow, deliberate entrance that immediately changes the temperature of everything around it. There's something about Damian Priest's presence that doesn't feel loud, it feels heavy. Like the air itself gets denser when he walks in. Royce Keys turned around, still trying to catch his breath, still processing what had just happened with the MFTs, and for a brief second you could see confusion written all over his face. Not fear yet, just confusion, like he couldn't understand why another problem was standing in front of him right after he had just survived one. And that's the thing about nights like this, they don't give you time to reset. They just keep stacking pressure until something breaks. Damian didn't rush. He didn't speak loudly. He didn't gesture wildly. He just kept walking forward with that calm, almost unsettling focus that makes people in the arena lean forward without realizing it. Royce Keys raised his hands slightly, trying to read the situation, trying to figure out if this was about to become an attack or a conversation that had gone wrong somewhere off camera. And honestly, that uncertainty is where things always get tense, because in wrestling, the moment you stop understanding intentions is the moment everything becomes dangerous. Then it snapped. Damian Priest closed the distance and in one sudden motion grabbed Royce Keys by the throat. Not a punch, not a strike, not a build-up, just immediate control. The reaction from the crowd was instant, that loud shock that hits when something crosses from confrontation into domination. Royce Keys' body language changed instantly, hands going up to Priest's arm, trying to relieve pressure, trying to regain balance, trying to make sense of how quickly things escalated from survival against the MFTs to being physically controlled by someone entirely different. And what made it even more intense was the fact that Damian Priest didn't look out of control. He didn't look like he was acting on rage alone. He looked composed, like this was intentional, like he had already decided the outcome before he even touched him. That's the part that stuck with people. Because when someone snaps emotionally, it's chaotic. But when someone snaps with control, it feels calculated. Royce Keys struggled, trying to push away, trying to talk through it, but Damian wasn't reacting to anything in that moment. It was like he was delivering a message that didn't require conversation. The arena noise peaked, officials started moving in, but even they seemed hesitant, like they weren't sure whether they were breaking up a fight or interrupting something that was supposed to happen. And by the time Priest finally released the hold, it wasn't messy or explosive. It was almost clean. Like he had finished what he came to do and simply let go. Royce Keys staggered back coughing, trying to regain his breath, eyes locked on Damian with a mixture of disbelief and frustration, like he still couldn't figure out how the situation escalated so fast. And Damian just stood there. no follow-up attack, no chase, no continuation. Just stillness. And sometimes stillness after violence is more unsettling than the violence itself, because it forces everyone watching to sit with the question of why instead of what happened. And that's where the real mystery begins. Because what made Damian Priest choose that exact moment? Royce Keys had just survived an encounter with the MFTs, which should have been the headline moment of his night. Instead, that moment gets swallowed by something darker, something more personal, something that feels like it wasn't random at all. Was Damian Priest making a statement to Royce Keys specifically, or was he sending a message to everyone who thought surviving one threat meant safety was guaranteed? Because the timing feels too precise to ignore. It's almost like he was watching, waiting, and deciding the exact second to intervene. And that raises even more questions about what's really going on behind the scenes. Was Royce Keys being tested without even realizing it? Was this some kind of message about stepping into deeper waters in WWE politics and locker room hierarchies? Or is Damian Priest simply in a phase where control matters more than explanation, where actions replace words completely? Because when you look at his behavior in that moment, it doesn't feel random. It feels like a decision that had already been made long before he walked through the curtain. Royce Keys now finds himself in a strange position because surviving the MFTs should have elevated him, but instead it just dragged him into something bigger and far more unpredictable. Every future interaction he has, every backstage segment, every match going forward will now carry the weight of what happened in that moment. Because once Damian Priest puts his hands on you like that, it doesn't just disappear. It follows you. It becomes part of your story whether you asked for it or not. And fans are already split on what it all means. Some are going to say it was unnecessary, that Priest crossed a line. Others are going to argue it was a warning, a message that Royce Keys needed after already dealing with chaos earlier in the night. And honestly, both sides will probably find evidence to support their argument because the moment itself sits in that uncomfortable middle ground where nothing is fully clear. Even the commentary reaction during the segment struggled to keep up, which says a lot. There was that hesitation in tone, that moment where even experienced voices pause because they are trying to process what they just saw in real time. And when commentary stops sounding certain, that's usually when the moment becomes memorable. So now the question becomes simple but heavy. Was that chokehold the beginning of a rivalry that hasn't fully revealed itself yet, or was it just Damian Priest making it clear that nobody gets to feel safe on SmackDown for long? Because if this is the direction things are heading, then Royce Keys might not just be dealing with isolated incidents anymore. He might be stepping into something much larger than a single night's chaos. And Damian Priest, whether he intended it or not, just made sure everyone is watching him a little more closely now. Anyway, I want to know what you think about this one because it's not as straightforward as it looks. Did Damian Priest go too far, or was this exactly the kind of statement that needed to be made after everything that happened earlier in the night? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this is one of those moments that will definitely keep people talking. And before you go, if you're enjoying these breakdowns and deep dives into moments like this, make sure you subscribe, because there's always another twist waiting right around the corner in WWE.